All right. So describe a problem that you faced while actually building the robot.
The electrical stuff.
So one of the biggest problems was when we were crimping the wires together for the electrical part of the robot. A lot of the connectors fell apart. So during the actual season and when we were before competition, we had to fix this on a time crunch. So that required all of the electrical people and some of the people who hadn't worked on electrical before to come together, and we all had to work together in order to fix this problem just before competition. So in a way that was a challenge, but it also worked out because it gave us more opportunity to learn more about, if people weren't in electrical, they got more experience in it, and electrical knew that we had to fix this for the next competition.
That's awesome. Kind of forced you to really work under pressure and come together as a team. Definitely good with the bad. That will be a lesson that you guys can all use later in life in your real jobs. Yeah. Okay, so how did you look for the solutions that you kind of came up with for the robot? So I know that you guys sounded like you had different ideas, but some of them were based on the same things. Who wants to speak to that?
So a bit of it was we had pre-planned it, but also a bit of it was trial and error. A lot of it was we would build a piece, see if it worked, didn't work, try something else. And so that kind of approach helped us with with problems that we didn't foresee with our original plan or original design. We had to just try and see what worked, and if it didn't work, try something else.
And the good thing about our robot is because we have 4 independent subsystems. First, when you build the chassis, there's a lot of open room to build essentially whatever you want. So for example, the elevator design could be completely independent of the chassis, except for the bottom bar where it actually connects to the chassis. So essentially we could have a lot of teams working on completely different things, and we could figure out how to put them together.
Nice, nice.
And then, so the majority of our robots made out of metal. One of the design challenges we did face, however, was the fact that metal was very heavy, and because of how far out the arm reaches, we couldn't make our end effector out of metal. So it's actually made out of a plastic called Lexan, and that allows it to not only be lighter, but also bend it toward the hatch panel. And we also, after actually CADing out our design and everything, we figured out that the hatch panel actually didn't fit onto the Lexan because of a slight interference. So then we took our perfect design and just took a jigsaw to it and tried to make it work.
Yeah, it's a good lesson to learn for later in life also. Okay, so with this many people working on a project like this, and I know that you had a time crunch, I'm sure there were some unexpected things that came up, both good and bad. How did you deal with those?
So one of the main things that came up was, like Ankit mentioned earlier, about just planning electrically everything that had to go on the robot, because there's so much electrical stuff that we didn't really plan where we were going to put it on the robot beforehand. So after we built all the pieces and put them together, we found that there was a lot of constraint on where we had to put things, where the space we had to put stuff electrically on the robot. And so it was really hard to kind of essentially wire management and getting everything on there. So what we had to do is, based on we had to use the same plastic Lexan, and we stuck 2 pieces of it on the side of our robot, and we put a lot of our electrical components on there so that we had enough space, and it was more organized, and it wasn't a mess.
And another thing we dealt with, some of the solutions on our robot are actually they work really well, but they're kind of not optimal. For example, the webcam is held up by zip ties, and the Limelight, which is our autonomous driving camera, is held up there by double sticky tape.
Yeah.
Well, if it works, it works. I'm sure it's not the most visual pleasing thing that you guys want to see, but again, if it works, right?
Mm-hmm.